What up, ladies and gentlemen, Chen Chen here, bringing you guys in our video. Today we are going to be going over Viego and his itemization and his rune page. Now this video is going to be very special because if you are planning to pick him up either for your champ pool or maybe he's just fun for you and you want to try him out, this video will go over in depth all your itemization and exactly what you should go. So I don't want to make this video all too long. We're going to start with the itemization and then move on to the runes. That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. So without further ado, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to smash the like button, join the Crimson Pack by subscribing to the channel. Let's get right into it. Alright, so we are in training tool or practice tool, whatever this is called, just so I can kind of show you it and run down everything. So there will be a lot of talking and occasionally I will be showcasing some stuff, but some are pretty self-explanatory. Let's start off with these starting items, ladies and gentlemen. You are going to either want to go Doran's Blade, Doran's Shield, or if you are in the jungle, Ember's Knife. Of course, I do want to mention Jungler here and there, although that is not the role I play him. I play him exclusively mid, but in case you are jungle, this video is pretty useful for you as well. So you want to go Doran's Blade if you are into a melee matchup. This goes for either top lane or mid lane. You have a ton of good harass just with Doran's Blade. You can obviously, auto Q auto. In the early game, it's extremely strong and potent with Doran's Blade. But if you are against more of a ranged poker or just almost any range champion, I will pretty much go Doran's Shield. This will give you a ton of sustain with your Q auto onto minions. It's going to be really effective. And for obvious reasons, in the jungle, you want to go Ember Knife because you are a duelist, and this will help you win a lot of duels in the jungle. Now let's talk about boots. There are three main boots that I would recommend. Boots of Lucidity, Merc Treads, or Plated Steel Caps. These two I'm putting emphasis on because pretty much you want to go these two every single game. If they have like 3 CC champs or 3 AP, go Merc Treads. If they have like 3 ADCs or AD base champion, go Plated Steel Caps. Now I will mention Lucidity as an option just because it's not horrible. CDR is pretty decent for your Q, W, and E. It doesn't really do a whole lot for your ult. But I mean, you kind of feel it, and it's definitely noticeable. But overall, your basic abilities, you'll be able to spam it a lot more, which is definitely something to keep in mind if you go for the Lucidity route. I will be talking a little bit more about Lucidity when I talk about jungle builds, but overall, these two are your go-to items. Some people like to go Berserker Greaves. This is not recommended. There's no reason to not get these actives, whether it's the tenacity or the reduced incoming attacks. Berserkers really just doesn't offer you anything, and you can get it mostly through your viable mythics as well. So let's just move on to viable mythic. Alright, so I have two categories for mythics. I have the viable mythic and I have the experimental mythics. Let's talk about the viable one first. The most popular mythic item on Viego, and for good reasons too, is Kraken Slayer. This gives you everything you need. It gives you attack damage, attack speed, critical chance, and the passive doing true damage. This synergizes very well with his passive, which benefits off of multiple scaling, and just overall his ult as well with the crit. So that's why these two are pretty good. It's for the crit scaling, and it will offer you the most amount of damage through the attack damage and attack speed. When you're a champion that relies on getting a reset to do what you need to do, obviously more damage is going to be very beneficial. Now, in terms of survivability, Immortal Shield Bow is definitely viable as well. I normally will run this into like maybe 4 assassins, those type of compositions. Immortal Shield Bow will definitely help you out just to survive. Now, they did change this to where it offers attack damage rather than more lifesteal. You're not really going to feel the attack damage all too much. The shield did get buffed and it is pretty nice, but in general, in majority of the cases, you do want to be going Kraken. Actually, I shouldn't say that. This is more about preference. So you have to play and look for your style of play. If you enjoy more damage and playing Viego how he's intended to be played as a, you know, sort of resetting champion, kind of like Master Yi, Kraken is definitely intended. But if you want to play him more bruisery, tanky, you can go Shield Bow. Another very viable option is Stridebreaker. Now, they did change Stridebreaker and nerf it a little bit. It's still very viable. Personally, I've tried this once and I absolutely don't like it. You feel no real power out of it. These few items are going to be more bruiserish, tank-ish, while this is more, you know, fitting into more of that like assassin-y build, sort of. So take it as you will. Stridebreaker is a pretty nice gap closer. Like I said, it's more utility than anything. I think in a champion like Viego, who already has his E, I don't really need... Holy shit, that's a lot of minions. I don't really need to have a gap closer to slow them. I can normally just walk up into an enemy, set up my W, auto Q, auto R, and probably burst them with Kraken. But if you feel as if you enjoy some sort of gap closer, maybe Stridebreaker will be for you. And lastly, the viable mythic. Now, I think this has dropped in popularity. I know in the very beginning of Viego, Trinity Force was very popular, but in general, this item is just not that great. You're spending quite a bit of gold on just stats that you really don't need, and it mainly comes with the passive, like attacks granting 25 moon speed. You don't need that, and if you're dealing damage, so you don't really need the extra movement speed, and that comes the same with Stridebreaker. Stridebreaker is more for the leap than anything, but for this, first off, the mythic passive is the same as Kraken. I don't know why this doesn't show as like 10%, it just shows 10, but I'm pretty sure it does offer you the same mythic passive scaling. But increasing your base attack damage in general, Viego really doesn't do well on attack damage. Like if you go full attack damage, he's not going to be doing an insane amount of damage. He scales really well with attack speed, and that's kind of where you want to take him, the route you want to take. Also, the Spellblade, it just doesn't really synergize well when you're trying to all-in them with W. Like I said, W, auto, Q, auto. You're only going to be proccing Spellblade like once throughout there, and it's not full effectiveness. But as I mentioned earlier, these are all technically viable, and you can definitely run whichever. It just depends on preference. If you like Trinity Force, go ahead for it. If you like the Leap, go ahead. And if you like Shield Bow passive with the shield, go ahead. Personally, I will be running Kraken 90% of my games, and then occasionally I go into Shield Bow. Alright, now let's move on to the experimental mythics. These are the mythics that are definitely not common, but I can see them work. So the first one is Gale Force. I think Gale Force works on a lot of champions. Once again, it's similar playstyle to Stridebreaker, but instead of for like the 200 health, the tankiness, you're opting out for the critical chance and just overall more damage. Gale Force has some interesting implications that I've been testing around with. First off, you can Gale Force, you can Gale Force W if that's some sort of combo in whatever instance you want to do that. You can W Gale Force for like a faster. So like if you W for the stun, why is it not working? There it is. You kind of have to wait a little bit, but W Gale Force maybe to reposition. I don't know, it's not too practical, and that's why it's still experimental. There's not a whole lot of combos you can do. You can Gale Force Q. It takes a while though. You can Gale Force ulti, of course, but it's gonna take a while. The most practical use is obviously with your W. Like I said, W Gale Force will help you reposition if that's needed on Viego. I don't really think it is, but I can definitely see in the future if these options are getting nerfed, Gale Force could actually be a fairly viable option. And lastly, Eclipse. I've seen some people run Eclipse Viego. It's not bad because you can proc it extremely easily, and I mean the stats are decent, right? You're getting Omni Vamp, which of course a sustained champion like Viego definitely likes. Attack damage, lethality, it's more for the assassin-y playstyle, and the shield is pretty nice. So that is that for the mythics. Now let's move on to the core items. Now you're gonna realize that these build paths are not laid out properly. I'm gonna be going over them later. I'm just talking about the items right now. The core, these items I will consider absolute core. So the very first one, Blade of the Ruined King. I mean, he's literally named the Ruined King, so obviously Riot intended this to synergize with him, and it really does. They actually changed it to where you're getting less lifesteal but more scaling. It's a fairly viable trade-off. Personally, I don't really see the lifesteal difference. I actually like the scaling. Then again, it's small numbers, so I don't realize any of it in-game, but this is definitely core. If you're going for the Kraken or any of these, Sterak's Gauge is also the core. I find that if you play Viego without any sort of passive shield lifeline, it's really hard to make him work. Lifeline just comes in super handy when you get chunked out, to where you can still continue fighting, continue getting your passive resets, and truly carry a fight. So Sterak's Gauge is definitely a core if you're going any of these mythics. And Guardian Angel is also core for the same exact reason. A lot of the times you're gonna get bursted. I used to go a very bruiser tanky build with shield bow into like Thornmail, Spirit Visage, with Bork of course, and I would still get one shot by so many things. GA is just going to, it's pretty much gonna play like Zhonya's, you know how you can go into a fight and pretty much just place a time restriction on yourself to, you know, do whatever. So whenever you're trying to respawn, you can assess the situation. It's just going to come in very handy. So these are the absolute core. I would recommend buying these 3 items every single game with a mythic. That's going to cover 4 items. And then with the boot, that's going to cover 5 items. Now, in terms of other items, these are all very viable as well. These are really nice ending 6 items or even 5th item. Thornmail, Spirit Visage, these are the classic tank items. Spirit Visage has some really nice implications with Viego because you have increased healing and it gives ability haste. Pretty much anything that gives ability haste is going to be fairly nice to round about Viego's build. Thornmail is just really nice because the Grievance Wound item, Kimpunk, I actually don't build this at all. I really don't like this item and I don't think it fits Viego. Much rather, Thornmail is just the better option, so there's that. And then Depth Stance for sure, if they're very heavy AD with a lot of Burny or Dot effects, Depth Stance is going to be pretty nice. And then the Collector is really nice if you're building into Eclipse or maybe you just want more damage. It is there as well. Now let's move on to the examples of kind of like full builds. I don't know why I'm missing a slot here, that's weird, but always want to go Blade of the Ruined King first if you're playing lane. This is because of the passive. You proc it extremely easily. You can auto WQ, what am I saying? You can W, auto, Q, auto. You're going to proc it instantly, and it's going to do an insane amount of damage. And if you round about with ults, they're just going to die, especially in the mid lane where everyone is squishy. Definitely want to go Bork first. Now, I only have boots here because, like I said, very situational. Either one of these two you ideally want to go. And then go into Kraken, Sterak's, GA, and then you can round it with any of these items. Example number 2 is the shield bow approach where you can't build Sterak's, so you go for the straight tanky-ish build. Now, lastly, I have an example for jungle, for any of you jungle Viegos out there. You want to go Kraken first, actually, into... This is where Boots of Lucidity could be pretty decent. I think any jungler can build this. And then go into Bork, into Sterak's, GA, Death Stance, whatever you need. You want to go Kraken first just for the passive of Noon Quiver. It's really good for your clear. Attacks deal an additional damage to minions and monsters. Bork really is going to help with your clear. And plus Kraken damage is really nice early game. Especially when you're trying to like just farm into like ganking. Kraken is definitely initially going to be the best burst and just overall clear. Alright, so that is it for the itemization. We are going to go into client and talk about runes. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I just checked the timer. We're actually running a pretty long video. But that's alright. I made it pretty in-depth, and I will leave timestamps in the comments below. But not comments, but the description. So let's talk about the rune page really quickly. This will take maybe like 4 or 5 minutes. This is the most optimized rune page that I would go like every single game, but there are some things you should change. First and foremost, absolutely never go this. Ravenous Hunter is absolutely nerfed. Taste of Blood really doesn't give you much, and overall you just don't need more sustain. You get so much value off of I believe this is called Resolve Tree. Yep, Resolve Tree. So definitely go for Resolve second every single game. Now, in terms of the first tree, there's not a whole lot of changes you can go. Conquer is the go-to for Viego just because he can proc it literally in like one single rotation of his W and his Q. He'll be able to proc Conquer extremely fast. Triumph is really good because the restoration and extra gold, and plus obviously none of these are good actually. But Legendary Alacrity, this is more attack speed. At times you can go for Tenacity. Personally, I don't really go for this. That's why I have Unflinching. But you can play around. If you go Tenacity, Unflinching with Mertreads, CC is just non-existent. So keep that in mind if you want to play that sort of playstyle for Viego. Alacrity is really good for laning phase, so that's why I take Alacrity. And then Coup de Grace to wrap it up, just because 40% HP, that's going to be your threshold for your ults most of the time, and that's just going to synergize really well. Another valuable option is Last Stand. If you're going for the shield bow approach, where you're very low HP and then you get a shield, Last Stand is very nice as well. Now talking about the secondary, in Sorcery, there's not really anything that's synergized. I mean, there could be an argument for Transcendence Gathering Storm. I've never ran this, and I honestly don't see a reason to run it. Just go Resolve, guys. It is between these 5 mini runes that you want to consider. So, if they have a lot of Assassins, go Bone Plating. If they have any sort of poke, go Second Wind. And then for the bottom, personally, I only take these 2, but some people like Overgrowth as well. If you want to just play more tanky, definitely go Overgrowth. Unflinching for Tenacity. If they have any sort of CC, I would say 2 or more CC, I go Unflinching. If they have no CC, I'm just going to go Revitalize for the more lane pressure. And then mini trees, go Attack Speed, Adaptive, and then Flex. Alright, and that is actually pretty much it. Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you guys found this video useful, and hopefully you guys know what to run on Viego. That's going to be it from me. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to smash like button, join the Crimson Pack by subscribing to the channel. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all have a great day. Chen Chen out.